Hello, this is Shiv Siddiq with your NS Weekly English News. A tropical storm from Bay of Bengal, accompanied by heavy rains, uprooted the camps of displaced Rohingya people in the city of Ekab, capital of Arakan province, last week, causing severe damage to temporary camps inhabited by Muslim minority since June 2012. More than 120,000 people, mostly from the Rohingya minority, live in makeshift camps for displaced people on the outskirts of the city Ekab since the outbreak of mass violence in Arakan state in 2012. A rainstorm in Choctaw city and the town of Ekab, Situate, uprooted some of the Rohingya refugee camps as a result of the storm. There was a state of panic and fear among those displaced from the camps, fearing the storm could return with heavy rains. Rohingya activists expressed their concern about the worsening living conditions of displaced Rohingya families living in these primitive camps, which have become dilapidated, disordered, and since these are even unsuitable for animals, demanding the Myanmar government to allow all Rohingya refugees to return to their homes or villages immediately, to restore citizenship rights and to end discrimination and racism against them in Arakan state. A committee set up by the Myanmar government, headed by the former UN Secretary General Mr. Kofi Annan, made recommendation last month to immediately allow the Rohingya Muslims to return to their homes, eventually closing the displacement camps set up for their shelter. The Myanmar government said it would actually begin in the removal of these 3 camps. A Rohingya student is missing after being apprehended by border guard police in the resident village of Mong Nama in northern Mongdo. The victim's name was Zubair as he was walking in the street. When the security personnel intercepted and searched him, they found a phone with a Bangladeshi SIM card in his possession. Generally, in these cases, the Rohingyas are left off with a fine and low-level assault. However, the border guard police treated Zubair much more roughly and have taken him to undisclosed location. As a result, there is tension in the area concerning his whereabouts. Incidentally, many Rohingyas keep Bangladeshi phones to keep in touch with friends and relatives on the other side of the border. At present, almost half of the Rohingya populace reside in the neighboring country. Local sources are saying security forces are getting tougher as there seems to be a sentiment that the final solution, example, the complete destruction and expulsion of Rohingya Muslims, is about to come, and as a result they are adopting more stringent measure against Rohingyas. Mong Nama was also one of the villages where there was a high level of violence during the recent crackdown. Ultra-nationalist Buddhist monks and their supporters have forced the closing of 2 Muslim schools in Yangon, Myanmar's biggest city, in a reminder that the religious strife remains a threat to the country's stability. About a dozen monks and scores of supporters gathered last Friday afternoon near the 2 Muslim madrasas, while police stood by as protesters demanded the local officials close the buildings. The raucous 3-hour gathering ended when officials agreed to allow them to chain the entrance of 2 buildings, which the protesters claimed were built illegally. Tensions between Myanmar's overwhelmingly Buddhist population and the Muslim minority spread after violent conflict broke out between ethnic Rakhine Buddhist and Muslim Rohingya in 2012 in western Arakan state, where the Rohingyas are accused of being illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, despite living in Myanmar for hundreds of years. Sri Lanka's Coast Guard last Sunday detained an Indian boat which had illegally entered the island's territorial waters and rescued 30 Rohingya refugees, including 16 children who were on board, an official said. The dhow, operated by 2 Indians, have entered the Sri Lanka's northern waters after crossing the sea border, said Navy spokesman Chaminda Walakuluk. The Coast Guard noticed that there were small children on board and escorted the dhow to a port, provided them with emergency assistance, Walakuluk told AFP. He said 7 men, 7 women and 16 children were on board, in addition to 2 Indian men crew who had been detained pending investigation. There was a 15-day-old baby and 4-month-old child on board. Walakuluk said, "We have taken them to port and provided food and medical assistance." He said it appeared the passengers had left India, where they had lived for about 4 years as refugees. They were handed over to local authorities to decide further actions. Investigators suspect that the crew were trying to bring Rohingya to Sri Lanka. The Muslim Rohingya in Myanmar's western state of Arakan state are denied citizenship and face a brutal discrimination in Buddhist majority country. The Rohingya Media Center participated in the 8th Forum of the Media Association, which ended last Thursday in Makkah of Saudi Arabia. After a 3-day event starting on April 25th, Sheikh Salah Al-Sheikh, the Minister of Islamic Affairs, Advocacy and Guidance, opened the forum titled Virtual Media and Targeted Community Stability, an accompanying exhibition on Wednesday amid of the presence of the media, academic and intellectual personalities. The center participated as a member of the associations, where members participated in the training courses that were held on the first day of the forum and then attended the conference held on the second and the third day, which talked about the stability of the society and its concept and importance in Islamic law and its causes, purpose and care for the young people. Members of the center participated in the training workshops that accompanied the seminars on the last day of the forum. A few days ago, a local resident of Rohingya found 2 bodies decomposed on the outskirts of Mongdo town in Arakan province, believed to belong to members of the same minority who were attacked by the military a few months ago. Arakan news agency correspondent said that the local residents said bodies were in an open pit, one of which was partially dislodged and the other was totally disrupted and believed to belong to members of the same village where they lived. Local residents said that the body belongs to Muslims killed on October 14th last year, when the Myanmar army launched a military campaign against Rohingya Muslims and was then buried in a remote area in a random way. The local residents recovered the bodies and buried them again after performing the rituals, the correspondent said. Myanmar army troops violently attacked Rohingya villagers in Arakan province last week during a raid for insurgents. Arakan news agency reported that 150 members of the army had stormed in the northern Budidong Arakan province. They searched homes, checked ID cards and investigated villagers. They asked for gunmen entering the town carrying white bags on their backs, pointing out that all the people reported during the investigations not to see any armed man in the town and do not know anything about them. The reporters confirmed that the villagers were tortured and threatened with imprisonment and murder by military members to pressurize them to extract confessions or to obtain information about the militant. But they left the village after the inability to find any information, but in the process they caused harm psychologically and physically to the Rohingya villagers. It is noteworthy that the Myanmar government uses such arbitrary measures and repressive methods against the Rohingya Muslims in the state of Arakan daily, which the United Nations state as the most vulnerable minority in the world. Thank you for watching these ships. Hope to see you very soon with more news.